What up, y'all? It's Joe Budden, here to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win real money while watching football. You can get up to 100 times your money.
Prize Picks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code SPOTIFY. That's code SPOTIFY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
We're going to love the Italians.
I'm so looking forward to it now.
It's going to be, it's a, I don't want to say it's a mouthful, but it's an eyeful.
An eyeful?
It's an eyeful?
What an eyeful?
Does that make sense? It's an eyeful. Right, that should be the quote of the
Come
podcast.
see the show, guys. It's going to be an eyeful.
Come see the show, guys.
Eyeful.
It's an eyeful.
Oh my God. I love it.
Ciao a tutti, benvenuti. You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. Mi chiamo Justin, or you can call me Stin. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, benvenuto. If you're one of our many loyal listeners, bentornato. On this episode of the podcast, we sit down with performers Emma O'Sullivan and Philip D'Ambrosio to discuss the new play The Italians, premiering at Belvoir's 25A Theatre. Emma and Philip both have rich Italian histories, and they share some of their most loved family memories and how using their culture has helped to develop new Australian work. Don't forget, you can find all our episode information on our dedicated podcast site. Follow the link in this episode's description or follow us on Instagram at TheatreThoughtsAUS, as well as our YouTube channel. So get ready to jump into a new episode of the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. Andiamo! Ciao Amici e benvenuti a un nuovo episodio di Theatre Thoughts Podcast. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was really good. Yeah.
I did have a second sentence, but I'm not going
Do it.
Okay. Oggi abbiamo per voi un episodio molto italiano. We have two amazing guests here today. Basically, for those who don't speak Italian, I just said welcome to the Theatre Thoughts Podcast. We have a very Italian episode today.
Yeah.
So we have Emma and Philip joining us on the podcast today. I'm very, very stoked to have you here. And we're talking about the Italians. And I don't get to generally talk about this part of my my background because it is like arguably a very small piece of my background. Only my granddad was Italian.
Right.
And his dad was British. His mum was Italian. He grew up in Italy. But I always wish that I talked more about him and had more of a connection to his culture. So we'll get to all that stuff later, but let's talk about yourselves. I usually do like a really big intro, so let me just do a brief one of that. Okay. So we have Emma, who's joining us. She's an actor, writer, juggler, and sometimes stilt walker, which is awesome. Graduated from WAAPA's acting degree in 2016. You've gone on to perform for theatres such as JackRabbit Theatre, Bakehouse Theatre, the Old Fitz and Sid Theatre Company, and you presented your one-woman comedy, Where Be the Winged Apes, for Perth, Newcastle, and Sydney Fringe festivals, which I'd love to talk about at some point. That sounds great.
Amazing.
So thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
And then we have Philip. So Philip, you grew up in a very Italian family in South Coogee. Spent a lot of time with his nonna, watching old movies where your love for cinema blossomed. Graduated from the University of Technology in Sydney, and then since turned your direction into acting, starring in the world's first television series for Instagram in 2018.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And then you were given the Actors Benevolent Fund Scholarship in your second year at NIDA, and then you've gone on to star in a variety of film, TV, and theatre. So again, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, you're very, very welcome. I've kind of done your background for you, I suppose.
Thanks.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know you went to UTS.
Yeah, I did. I was going to be a journalist because, I don't know, my parents were like, get a real job. You're not going to be an actor. And I was like, okay.
Thanks, Mum and Dad.
I mean, that's a very European, Italian thing to tell your children to have stability and money.
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but then I just got the itch and was like, nah, fuck it. I want to be an actor. I want to be creative and just I followed that path and ended up at NIDA and
There you go.
Awesome.
It's so cool, isn't it?
now I'm here.
Yeah. And what about you, Emma? Where did your path like kind of come from?
In acting wise, like
Yeah.
where to start? I did like this community kind of kids drama class thing when I was 10, when we moved like back up to the city to Perth.
Okay.
And because I was kind of like, oh, you know, you're doing like dancing and stuff when we were in the country. And I went, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And Mum was like, oh, why don't you go to drama class? Because it gets you a bit more confident, because I was a bit shy. And yeah, I fucking loved it because, you know, it was just a whole bunch of kids just allowed to muck around for, you know, 2 hours on a Saturday. And then, you know, went to school and I was like, oh, this is a class at school. Like, this is a thing you can do. I'll take that one. And, then did that. Then went to Curtin Uni for 3 years, where I studied at the Hayman Theatre.
Okay.
Did performance studies and professional writing there. And then took a year off because didn't get into drama school for the 4th time. So I was kind of like, I think I need to go and do something else and have a year off acting and see if I miss it. And I did. So then I came back to Perth, auditioned for WAAPA again, then got in, and then did 3 years there, then came here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I found we're seeing a lot of shows. WAAPA seems to be like a real one that a lot of people are coming from. Because when I grew up, it was always NIDA. Like NIDA was like the be all and end all. And now I've seen like a lot of people come from WAAPA as well. So I find it interesting how it shifts where people come from. So you're both starring in The Italians.
Yes.
At Belvoir's 25A. You're running from the 23rd of October to the 6th of November.
See?
See?
My Italian contribution. See?
Excellent. So it's written by Danny Ball and directed by Riley Spadaro.
Yes.
So tell me about the show. I have a blurb, but I want to hear your kind of your views.
Okay. So this play is definitely a comedy. Like it's kind of balls to the wall comedy.
Yeah.
And it's trying to condense like a lot of chaos into like what is essentially
73 minutes?
Yeah, 73 minutes. And it is, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. It's really good.
It's a fever dream.
Yeah.
It's like you get into the theatre and you're immediately taken into a smorgasbord of Italian culture.
Right.
And it's, you know, a road trip piece of theatre that travels across different locations. We meet different characters. It sits in the world of farce.
Okay.
It's a very broad comedy. It is in your face. It's, excuse me. We just follow these people that are on this journey to get some money and to pay back their debts.
Okay.
And then we see these two lovers, Joe and Sal, who are fighting for each other. And then there's, you know, Patrizia and Rose, who are these strong Italian women that are there on the journey. And then we meet the mum and dad and the, you know, the Kumare Pina and the plumbers there. And it's just like what you'd expect from a play that's called The Italians. It's like chaos.
It's kind of like we're kind of like giving us a subculture, because that's a thing that we're a part of. But it's sort of like condensing it down to like a stock cube kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I've never heard anyone explain it like that. I think that's great.
Yeah. It's like really intense and it's like really big characters and it's just like it's a stock cube of a subculture.
Cool.
Is that a
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I like it.
Without giving away too much about it.
Yeah,
we don't
it's
wanna
always hard. Isn't
I'm
it?
just like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
We don't want to tell you like exactly what it's about because you need to come and see it.
Yeah. You
Like,
need to see it to
but
understand.
it's called The Italians, and you will not be disappointed because it is 73 minutes of pure joy. It's a laugh a minute, and you just need to experience it. It's like an onslaught of everything you want in a broad comedy.
Okay.
There's, you know, musical numbers, there's some dancing.
Oh, well, now you've sold me. As
Yeah.
soon as you chuck that in there.
There's amazing musical transitions. It's just like, it's a lot of fun. It's going to be very hard for us actors to have the precision to not corpse.
I have to freaking stop now. Like I have to really start now to.
It's just like every rehearsal is like a gag a minute, and it's just like it's been so fun. And what's actually been the most enjoyable thing for me, you know, through the course of the development, which has been for like about a year and a half, is being in a room with other wogs.
Yeah.
And just having a space that feels safe enough to make big choices and to not feel like you can't do it because you're supported by people who get you and they understand your cultural context, and being able to bring like your history and your family stuff and who you are as a person into a role as an Italian, for me, is like really special. It's nice to play, you know, be Italian on stage and just like sit in that and enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's lovely. And like I was saying, like before, like my granddad is Italian, so I don't, I have like a real mix. So it's like Italian, British, Australian sort of thing. And there were like hints of like his culture that always came in. And I want to talk about Italian families in a sec. But there was, it's like I never fully lived that part of like my background. I got like the whole British stuff because obviously I'm a very white ginger. So I didn't really pick up like that side of it. But let's talk then about your background and your history and culture. So we said before the podcast that at the same time as you, Looking for Ella Brandy is going to be on at the same time, which is awesome. You got these two Italian stories in one space.
Very clever programming by Belvoir.
Yes, well done, Belvoir.
Well done.
Yes. So tell me about your families then. Do you have like any particular stories that stood out in your childhood that kind of you really hold like close to you that's really helped you to develop the roles?
I mean, yeah, there's this one story that pops into mind. I mean, last night we were all of a sudden choreographing a like So You Think You Can Dance like 45-second contemporary routine, and it just made me think of this time when my nonna, she came to live with us a little bit later on in her life as she started to get dementia. So from the ages of like 15 to sort of 19, like we were her carer.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time with her, not going out with mates, because I just felt that I would like regret it if I didn't spend that time with my nonna.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we did together that she really loved was watching Dancing with the Stars.
Okay.
And I just like am like, you know, I'm not a dancer, but like living this moment where I'm dancing on stage, I'm thinking of my nonna, and it takes me back to this one time where everyone was out and we were watching Dancing with the Stars together, and she was laughing and loved it. And then I started to pirouette for her, and I haven't seen her like cackle like that in years because she was kind of fading at that time. And I was pirouetting so hard that I lost balance. As I said, I'm not a dancer. Yeah. And I crashed onto the glass coffee table, and she just did not stop laughing.
Oh no.
And I like cannot forget her laugh, and just that for me makes me so happy to do this, and like bringing that character of my nonna into sort of the role of like Giuseppina and her like mannerisms and things that she would say, you know, through the beautiful writing of Danny Ball, has been like how I've brought that part of my culture, like my nonna, like being able to bring her into this character has just been like pretty like amazing for me. And like I'm sure she'll be watching down, like watching me butcher some dancing, but probably laughing.
We're laughing still.
Yeah,
that's
so
beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Were you okay when you crashed into the table? Like,
I was
that's probably the question I should have asked.
I was like, what the fuck?
I was fine. It broke really smoothly, and I didn't get any cuts. And then I just like got up and like we just sat there and laughed. And then I was like, fuck, I've got to clean this before mum and dad get home.
Nice.
Because like dad is like classic Italian, like man, like very, you know, big and strong-minded.
Yeah.
I've got so many stories, but it's sort of like, I don't know, my family just sort of feels like just like any other family, I guess, because they're Italian, but I've got my dad's side is Aussie, a skip, and then my mum's side is Italian, but I don't know, it's sort of, my family in Perth runs the Trevizzani Italian Club over there. Oh, right. So my nonno started it up when he moved to Australia. And that was just like, it was just one of those things that's like a really big part of our lives that I just kind of just sort of thought, oh, this is sort of everyone's experience of their culture as well. But I realised it's like really unique. And we had like big events sort of not every other Sunday, there was sort of sometimes once a month. And my mum and her sisters and her brother ran it, and it was just feeding a whole lot of people. And we had really specific sort of events that were specific to the part of Italy that we're from, and all the cousins got involved, and it was just like a hell of a lot of fun. But yeah, Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It was really nice. And it was like, I'm only just sort of realising now how lucky we were to sort of to have that, because it meant that, I don't know, specifically where we're from in Italy was really weaved into our lives. And it was just a really active thing that we were doing, because we were doing it for, you know, our whole community, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was, really community focused and really lovely.
And whereabouts in Italy is that?
It is this small part of Italy just north of Venice.
Yeah.
So the town we're from, well, my mum's family is from, is called San Zenone.
Okay.
And it's in the province of Treviso. And there's a lot of Trevisani in Perth. So Nonno really wanted to make sure that they had a place that they would go to. At that time, they were doing it underneath his house, like in the basement level of Nonno's house, and they'd hold functions down there.
Amazing.
Yeah, until it got so big that they had to move it to like this big hall called the Laguna in Dinella, and it's just a place they could go and speak dialect. So you know, we're hearing a lot of it around all of the immigrant generation that were there, and it was just, and have food that's specific to where they're from, which is like really, really, it's like not glam, like it's really specifically peasant food, and I just love that we got that and we got to kind of celebrate that. It was lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
and my
really
granddad was born in Trieste.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah, and my dad and I went to visit that area probably, when was it, like 2017, I think.
Wow.
And he wanted specifically to find where he was born in there and see if any family were left. And we had this just star-crossed sort of moment where we went to the house that with the only name we had of one of his relatives. We rang the door and no one was there. And so we went away and my dad was like, come on, we got to try one more time. So I was like, all right, no one's going to be there. So he came back, rang it, someone was there.
Oh my God.
We went up there and it turns out it was my granddad's brother's son was there. They were moving house on that day to go wherever, who knows where. And so my dad didn't speak any Italian. This guy didn't really speak any English, but his son was there and he kind of like had some sort of English like about him. And my dad was basically just holding this family tree map that he had to this guy and was like, we're family. This is you. This is me. And the guys are like going, no. And then he looks at the map and goes, that's me. That's my name. You're like, and we just had this really weird connection that we're family. And it was so surreal.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It was weird, hey?
That's so nuts.
I was kind of standing there not doing anything. I was like, oh my God, is this actually happening right now?
It's so, oh my God.
Yeah.
How long are you staying there for?
Only like 3 nights.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we specifically went there for that reason.
Yeah.
To see if we can find anyone. Because my granddad was, because he was, his dad was British, mum was Italian. He was around during World War II. So Mussolini kicked anyone who wasn't purely Italian out. So they had to go to Greece. They fled to Greece. And my granddad was actually a POW. They got captured and was taken to he was taken to a camp in Austria.
Oh my God.
For the majority of his youth, actually. My nan would later write a book called My Stolen Youth about his life there. And it was, fascinating. The stories that just come out of it were incredible. So he never saw some of his brothers again, because obviously they were taken from the war and killed in the war and stuff. So his family was very much dispersed because of it. And so that's where like the little trickles of Italian has kind of been taken away. We've never seen it again. But there's little stories that come from it. So, for instance, he never ate his peas at dinner because that's all he was fed at the camp. So when my nan would cook peas, he'd always shove them to the side because he didn't want to eat them again.
Yeah.
So these real like stories that you realize are just kind of the effects of those wars, like that's the trauma sort of passed on, but you never really realize it until you get older, the effects of it. I didn't understand it at the time when I was young. He died when I was probably 16.
Yeah.
And it's that hindsight, I suppose, that you realize the importance of your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think what the play, it is a broad comedy, but at its heart, these circumstances are true for these characters. And there is a lot of the themes that we deal with our class and how our families, especially sort of Italian families, affect us as we grow up and how we carry that into, our adulthood. And we touch on those themes and, you know, they're universal themes. They're not just pertaining to Italians. But I think that's another thing that the play does so well is we allow people to enjoy these amazing moments of comedy, but then at the heart of it, we're also, you know, saying something that is important.
Well, that was really heavy. I kind of got a little bit of emotional there just thinking about it. I felt it after I stopped speaking.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you have a copy of that book? That you
I
have
do.
read?
Yeah, I do.
Can I
When
please read it?
when I come see it at the show, I have like a
Please.
whole
I
box.
really want to read
I have
it.
a whole box of them,
Yeah.
so I'll bring you a copy.
Please.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, there's some
Oh
really
my
good
gosh.
stories in there. Funny stories. He tells this one story of how they used to escape from the camp and run down to the river to go for a swim. And the soldiers would see them like down to the river, and there's this really good story where they were down there and they mooned them. They were like, you know, like, fuck you, we're down here. And obviously they paid for it later. But but just those real unique stories of joy that come out of something that's obviously a horrific time. So I'll bring you a copy. That'd be cool.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I found that like absolutely remarkable about my nonna, and my nonno passed away when my mum was 17, so I didn't get to meet my birth nonno, but my nonna remarried to his best friend a few years later, and I grew up with a nonno, but he wasn't completely related to me, but I found it really amazing just how, considering what they grew up around, and we didn't ask them a lot of questions about their experience of the war. There was sometimes they'd talk about it, but I've heard more stories from my nonna's siblings than my actual nonna. Yeah. And it's,
they don't generally talk about it.
No.
And the moments they do, my dad will always say that he would never talk about it. But when he
How
did,
you feel.
everyone just shut up.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
But that said, it's like, even though that's how they dealt with it, they were the funniest people. They were always cracking up. And I went, I think they negotiated a lot of things with humour.
Yeah.
And that definitely became like a currency in our family, is essentially how well you can give or take a joke. More than anything, above anything, that's sort of the thing that keeps you going, I guess.
I actually have a scar on my hand from not from my granddad, but from when I was walking our dogs around a park, and I fell and tripped on a fence and cut it. So it scarred me, but it was like gushing blood, and he's just like going, just a scratch, and just all that stuff. And he comes home, my nan sees, and she screams, "Oh, what is it? What have you done to him?" He's like, "Oh, he's just a scratch, he'll be fine." And I always look at it and I just go, "Oh, thanks, yeah." Running a small business? Are you promoting a new show or running a theatre space? Maybe you're looking for an area to reach potential new clients. Why not advertise with us on the Theatre Thoughts podcast? We have a range of packages and prices for you to put your ad right here on the podcast. For more information, contact us at theatrethoughtsteam@outlook.com or by heading to our website, theatrethoughtsaus.online. But let's talk about the writing then. So let's move on from real deep. That was real deep and heavy, but beautiful. So Danny's writing. It's a new script. And Danny's done a lot. I've become very familiar with a lot of his work recently. Did Tom at the Farm, which was a hit as well. So I want to ask, what do you think is the importance of still telling like these stories that are prevalent to a lot of people in Australia, but bringing it into a more modern context?
It's funny, like when it was mid 2020. So I'll sort of tell you how it sort of came about. It's mid 2020, and like Danny contacted me and said, you know, Cakes Tea's giving us sort of space to develop, you know, for a week if we want it, which is really cool. And so he got me and Tom DeAngelis and Jeremy Campese in a room together. And I was actually like, not skeptical, but sort of going in actually wondering, like, is there a story in this? Because, you know, there's not a lot of cultural tension with our generation because, you know, we were born here, grew up Aussie, particularly me, and I've got Aussie side, Italian side as well. And I was sort of wondering if there actually is a story in it, but the more and more we did it and the more we talked about it, the more we just couldn't stop talking about it. And then you sort of realize it's like, there's still value in it, and it's still worth sort of showing a subculture that we grew up in. And it's sort of about I don't know, what do you call it? Italian adjacent. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not about being Italian. We just all happen to be.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's sort of, and I don't feel like, for me, it's like doing the show, I don't feel like there's an agenda to show a certain difference or, you know, I don't know. It's a really interesting one. And I'm learning it more and more every time we're in rehearsal, like what actually is our job here,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and what, it's fascinating. So I'm still learning constantly from when we started improving around it, right, to when we got until we got development, people in the room, and then we got a script. Like, I'm still figuring it out, and I will right up until tape. And then I probably will learn even more after we start,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
which is sort of like the best part about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I came on to the project 2021.
Yeah.
So Danny is my partner.
Oh, okay.
So, we, have a lot of time together talking about ideas, and there was this idea
So
that
you're going to have like the real scoop, like the process.
So yeah, I'm gonna have the scoop. But I don't want to speak on Danny's behalf because he's better with words. So it came from this development that Emma spoke about, and what evolved from that is, it's a story that is universal, and we so happen to be Italian. So we're not telling a story too much about Italian culture. It's just a story that happens, and we are Italian.
Yeah.
And from our personal lives, Danny and I, our relationship has kind of been blended into the story with the two hero characters, Sal and Joe. And they come from different worlds, different, class backgrounds.
Different connections to their culture.
Yeah, we have different connections to our culture, and how our own personal relationship has been bled into the show is through a process of how willing Danny has been to put that into the show.
Yeah.
And then through the help of everyone else coming into the development, it's grown into something so much more. It's become something greater than just a story about two men who love each other.
Yeah.
Which is, another aspect of it is it's not a queer story. The two characters just so happen to be queer, but
Yeah, I'm liking this a lot. I've seen this a lot of theatre and a lot of directors saying this, that they're doing these like new pieces of work, and it's not about them being Italian or them being queer. They just happen to be.
yeah.
And I think that's a good way to move forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to move forward, and we're lucky enough in the company to have amazingly talented actors that have brought so much of themselves and ideas to the work. And I think the beautiful thing about Danny and being a writer is he's so flexible and open to collaboration. And I think when it's a new work, you need that.
Yeah.
Because we can all bring something special to it. And if we work collaboratively as a community, it's going to be so much more richer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And it's nice being able to be. I haven't worked on a play that's a new script since 2018.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I forgot how nice it is when you can be on the floor and actually just sort of look to the writer and go, can I just try something like this?
Yeah.
Can I actually just switch this word around?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think you start really politely and you're like, is it okay if I can just, do you mind? And then by the end you're just like, I'm going to do this. And then,
yeah.
But it's like, he's really, really good about it, and he's always open to just trying something. But
Yeah.
of course, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
Yeah,
if it does,
exactly.
it does. And again, like, it's not like doing the shifting hard or something where we have to pick somewhere specific and pick to a specific dialect and of Italian, or we are all from different parts of, our heritage is all from different parts of Italy, and if we want to chuck something in there that's ours, Danny's sort of open to that.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
It's really nice. Like, it's really nice.
That's great.
I love it. Yeah. It gives us a lot of ownership over it.
Yeah, for
Which is,
sure. I think that's a beautiful thing to have.
It's so rare. Yeah. It really is. It's a bit of a gift.
Well, did you want to play a quick game?
oh my God, okay.
I call it a game. It's more just like a quick fire, like questions sort of thing.
Great.
I've been doing a lot lately. It's called 1 minute theatre thoughts.
Great.
So I'm going to
God.
kind of time a minute. And this is interesting because it's two people. So I haven't done with two people before. Basically, I'll time a minute, and then if I can get my timer up, and you're just going to see how many questions you can answer in 1 minute. They're just like your thoughts on like different things.
Are we taking one
doing a
question
minute
at a
Yeah,
time?
we'll do like a 1-1. We'll see how many we can do
Okay, great.
between the two of you.
Oh, is it about theatre?
Yeah, general theatre.
Great.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's 1 hour. My God.
Oh,
What am I doing?
1 hour.
1 hour
quick
theatre.
fire. Go.
Excellent. Okay, here we go. What is your favourite play?
Oh my God.
The Italians.
Great answer. Great answer. Do you have a dream role?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Great.
Great role. Which family would you rather be in, the Capulets or the Montagues?
Oh shit. Montagues.
Montagues.
Right. Which film is better, The Godfather or Godfather Part 2?
Godfather Part 2, easily.
yeah.
Nice, good answer. Who is your theatre inspiration?
Ooh, who specifically?
Emma O'Sullivan.
Definitely Phil, and definitely. Oh my God, there's so
Everyone
many.
in the cast.
Yeah.
Everyone in the
There's
cast.
so many. There's so many.
Great.
Yeah.
What's your most controversial theatre opinion? That's the last question.
Oh my God, I can't say
Or do
it. I'll
you
get
have a
cancelled.
controversial? Yeah, don't.
I mean, I do have a controversial theatre opinion. But
Most controversial theatre. I don't know if it's particularly
yes.
controversial.
no shows over 75 minutes. It's too long.
I like that.
I don't like intervals. I don't like sitting down for that long.
I've recently seen, because obviously Fringe was on, I've seen a lot of like 1 hour shows and it's perfect. I can do like 75 minutes is perfect. 80 minutes I can do it. 90 you're starting to push
Pushing
without
it.
interval.
And people have weak bladders these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm
We've definitely gone over a minute. I must
No,
say.
we have gone well.
Most controversial
going.
theatre opinion. Oh, I don't know.
Oh my God, you don't want to say what
I don't
you're-
know. I'm just trying to think because I've got opinions, but I just don't know if they're controversial.
Mine are all just musical theatre related. Just like this show's overrated.
You're
or it's
gonna
not
love the
any good.
Italians.
I'm so looking
gonna have
forward
a
to it
ball,
now.
mate.
It's gonna be It's a. I don't want to say it's a mouthful, but it's an eyeful.
An eyeful.
It's an eyeful.
What an eyeful.
Does that make sense? It's an eyeful. Right, that should be the quote of the
Come
podcast.
see the show, guys. It's going to be
Come
an
see
eyeful.
the show, guys.
Eyeful.
It's an
Oh
eyeful.
my God. I love it.
But
Love
it
that.
is. It's an eyeful.
Yeah.
And maybe an earful.
It's an assault on the senses.
There we
It
go.
sure is.
That's
It's-
better.
An
yeah.
assault on the senses. Thank
It's
you,
like a
Emma.
big family Italian dinner. It's going to be an assault on your senses.
It's
It's great.
It's
An eyeful.
It's an
It's an
eyeful.
eyeful.
Lol.
Write that down.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well,
my God.
thank you so much for jumping on. This has been so fulfilling.
Oh
to
my
talk
God.
about.
Thanks for having me.
No, you're very,
and
very
thanks
welcome.
for sharing the beautiful stories
Yeah.
about your
No, thank you.
family.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
indulging
yeah.
me and sharing it.
No, awesome. I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah, I'll make sure to bring
Yeah.
it. So the Italians plays at Belvoir's 25A Theatre from the 23rd of October to the 6th of November. You can book tickets at belvoir.com.au.
Yeah.
Ciao!
Come
Ciao
on, see you
Amici.
there.
Book your tickets.
We'll see you there.
Grazie to Danny Ball for helping to organise the podcast. Grazie mille to Emma and Philip for joining us as our guests for the episode. This episode was produced by Echidna Audio. Get in contact with them at echidnaaudio.com to hire their recording booth or follow them on Instagram at Echidna Audio. Tickets for the Italians can be booked via belvoir.com.au or by following the links in this episode's description. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Help us support our podcast team and our Theatre Thoughts reviewers by joining our Patreon for as little as $3 a month, or buy us a coffee by donating $5 and help to fund new independent Theatre Thoughts. Follow the link tree in this episode's description for more information. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts podcast.